Hello and welcome to Pantheon Talks. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. We are diving into more of the information from the Reddit article that the Webtoon editor posted, and I'm super excited to talk about it with you guys. I feel like we've been covering a lot of really good information. We've been being really transparent in all of the conversations that we're having, and I feel like that's been so beneficial for everyone. Just having and very open, very raw discussion about editing your series, about what's expected from readers is super important, because in order to have a balanced viewpoint, you have to kind of look at things from a lot of different perspectives. And I feel like having the insights from this editor has been so helpful to everyone, just because he's speaking from a place of experience and he's speaking from a place of working with webtoons as well. And a lot of people want to be originals. Let's just be honest. I talked to a bunch of creators and majority of them are like, yeah, I would love to be an original. So let's just say that I feel like this is a perfect segue into, having some realistic expectations for that stuff. Hello, good morning, Aries. So glad that you could be on. I've really been appreciating all of your dialogue that you've been contributing to the discussions. I also want to say, I remember your question from yesterday, and during the question and answer section, I thought about it some more. And so I think that I can give you a better answer. Just remind me when we get to that point, and I will answer your question again, because I think I have some more to say on it. Witch's Brew, good evening. Yes. Thank you for watching the last stream. It has been very interesting. So let's go ahead and dive in. Disclaimer, pause it if you want to read it, but take everything with a grain of salt. So we're going to be jumping back over to that Reddit article. It is linked down below. If you haven't watched part 1 or part 2, now is your chance to look at those videos. We covered everything that the editor has said thus far, and so we'll be picking up where we left off from the last point. So I'm going to jump on over to... Let me close out some of these tabs real quick. Sorry about that. But I'm going to jump on over to the article. And we left on a really interesting question. So this person asked, they said, what does your work include as an editor? Editor sounds so... Oh man, I always struggle on how to say this. Omnipotent? Omnipotent? One of the two. I want to say omnipotent, but it is what it is. What do you like the most about your job, and what the least? Have you ever edited a comic you don't like? Have you ever edited a comic where you cringed over the story? Have you ever become a fan of the story you edited, or do you have an emotional distance to them and just see it as a job? Are you a comic creator yourself? That is it for now. Thanks for taking your time to answer and doing this AMA. So Tyler responded by saying, number 1, so I think I'll restate the question. They asked, what does your work include as an editor? And so he said, simplest description of an editor's role might be do whatever you can to help the comic succeed. So my work has touched on every stage of production, plus planning and designing for marketing. I've offered support on tech issues as well, and helped a bit on the licensing side of things. So that's kind of how I feel like your editor is there to help you succeed. I feel like if you succeed, they succeed, sort of thing. And so all in all, your editor is always going to be looking out for you, or should be looking out for you. So I think even if they have a varying perspective from you, they're not trying to make you fail. It's just based off of their knowledge, based off of their experience. They feel like this is a better route to go. And this is where I was saying, sometimes you just gotta be like, dude, no. I gotta say this with my chest. I gotta speak from my heart and tell you that you're wrong, editor. I am right, and I feel like this is the direction I want to take my story in. But it's always good to have that extra perspective. And I feel like the more people develop stories, the better they get at knowing when to stand on business and when to be like, you know what, you're right, I'm gonna change it. All right, number 2, what do you like the most about your job, and what do you like the least? He said, when I was trying to pick a career path, I decided 2 of my biggest values are caring for people and telling stories. So doing those 2 things are my favorite parts of the job. It is pretty common for me to write more than 5 pages of notes about a comic's first episode, and that number stays the same for probably the first 6 episodes before we find a good groove. As for stuff I don't like, I find contracts very tedious. Contracts are very tedious. And the biggest reason for that is because listen, I feel like most contracts probably, like, if everybody was trying to be fair, if everybody was not trying to screw each other over, because listen, at the end of the day, I feel like even if you are a creator, you want the bulk of the money. Like, you would prefer for it to be a 70-30 split between you and the business, opposed to a 50-50 split between you and the business. And that's just how I feel. I feel like, a creator's perspective might be, I'm doing the majority of the work, therefore I feel like I should be getting paid the most. And then you don't necessarily see what the company is doing or adding value to. So it kind of has like this seesaw sort of thing, where it can't just be everything split down the middle. But the reason I bring that up is because this is why contracts are so tedious, because everybody kind of wants a little bit more here or a little bit more there. And so it's kind of like you're seesawing between the two to figure out what's the best equilibrium for your story, and where you feel like you're not getting screwed and where the company feels like they're not getting shafted. So it's just one of those things where, you really need a lawyer. I cannot stress this enough. Okay, number 3. Have you ever edited a comic you don't like? He said, nope. Editing requires a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of humility, and those keep the work fresh for me. If I'm not enthusiastic about something that readers love, it usually means I need to zoom in and think more about why they love it. And that requires the humility to learn and grow. So important. Like this, I feel like that's a really good sign of a good editor, because if they feel like they're reading it and they're not enjoying it, but the fans love it, then clearly you're missing something as an editor. You're not bringing something to the point of, you know what? The story has a good basis, it has good bones, it has, fun interactions for the audience, because sometimes our perspective is not the same as the mass perspective. So like, for example, not to like crap on Rachel or anything, but so many people loved Lore Olympus. So many people still love Lore Olympus. But you could have been in the majority and been like, I hate Lore Olympus. I feel like it doesn't make sense. I feel like it doesn't do anything for me, which is completely valid. But the thing of it is, readers love it. And the numbers show that readers love it. So there's something in there that shows that the story is good. My point with all of this is you really want your editor to have a very open perspective to your story and see the possible potential of the story. And even if it's not their cup of tea, I feel like that's fine, because they can still figure out ways to help you improve on telling the story. Number 4, have you ever edited a comic where you cringed over the story? He said yes, but I 100% prefer a draft that makes me cringe than a draft that isn't complete, because I can only fix the former. I encourage creators to send me drafts that they know aren't perfect, and I follow Anne Lamont's advice and accept that the crappy first draft is part of the process. And if I cringe, it's usually because of a strong choice in a draft that doesn't yet feel right. And strong choices that evoke strong reactions are more useful for drafts than weak choices that leave me bored. A cringe gives me a lot of information and more to work with. So go big during drafting stage, then scale back as appropriate. Ooh. So this is really important. I feel like in the draft stage, like, I agree with him 100%. I much rather someone be like, "Ooh, I got a reaction from that, from the way you wrote that," opposed to, "Yeah, it was fine," or, "I mean, it was super slow and I didn't enjoy it. Everything made sense. All the character dialogue was fine. I didn't feel anything." At least I feel like from the cringe standpoint, it's like, yes, as a writer, I can evoke emotion from you. Was it the right emotion? No. But I am onto something with what I'm writing. It did make you feel something. And I think that's super important. So I would say during your drafting stage, so many people, and this is why I'm so happy that Webtoons went ahead and announced the contest this month. Like, they're saying they're planning it for March. That gives you so much time to draft out your story, to get something really strong to produce and release. So like, you could spend this whole month just working on your script, refining it before you even start drawing. And I feel like people are just so anxious to draw that you get like that first draft and then you're good to go, and it just does not have any feedback behind it, and then you're wondering why it's not good. Because the concept can be really good, an idea can be really good, it's the execution that's going to make people stay. So like if you're not executing on a high level, the idea that's so good is just drowned by all of the, you know, stuff that you pile on top of it. All right, number 5. Have you ever become a fan of a story you edited, or do you have an emotional distance to them and just see it as a job? He said, I'm always a fan and I need distance. It's a balancing act. If I let my personal enjoyment get out of hand, then my work-life balance would be crap because I'm still working even when I'm enjoying the comic. But I get the special fun of getting to call up the creator of the whole dang comic and giggle over how much we love the characters. Okay, that's super fun. I definitely, like, if you get an editor, I do think having them be a genuine fan of your series would be really nice. Like, I do think that you can have an emotionally distant editor that just like sends you notes over email. That can be very effective, but I feel like it, you know, it kind of like you're kind of hyping each other up a little bit. Like your editor is kind of like validating you a little bit, but they're also like, hey, this is business though. Like, listen, this is what's wrong with the story. Like, I love this moment. I love that moment, but dude, you just info dumped like 90% of the episode. I liked 10% of it, and it was that moment with that character. And so I feel like that's so important to be able to understand that just because your story is good, or just because like elements of it other people enjoy, doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be fixed. Like, you can have fans that really enjoy your series, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things in there that need to be fixed. And so sometimes when creators are like, I don't know what's wrong with it, like everybody who reads it says that they love it, which it could be that your story just isn't getting like pushed out to the right people, but it also could be that the story at its current level, or the way the story is being told, readers just aren't vibing with it. So my point in all of this is being able to balance that perspective from a creator standpoint, from an editor standpoint, is really important. As a creator, you should be able to look at your work and in my opinion, you should be able to rip it apart. You should be like, yeah, this scene, I could have cut this line of dialogue. I could have cut this part of exposition or narration. I didn't need these panels. Like, it really didn't add anything. So I think it's super, super important to be able to balance that. Yeah, I love making my story, but I also know my story has flaws. Like, as I said in the last video, I don't think any story is a 10. Like, only history can make a story a 10. Like, if your story survives through time, that means you made something impactful, and nothing can take that away. Like, I'm looking at you Jane Austen fans. Like, Pride and Prejudice, I feel like will never disappear. Okay. Number 6. Are you a comic creator yourself? Yes, though I have way more experience editing than creating comics myself. I had a Tumblr comic 10 years ago, and I drew a daily comic as an 8th grader. Haha. I'd be making my own comic right now, but I have a brand new baby and little time for work that doesn't pay. Ooh, so this kind of brings up the fact that somebody mentioned that they emailed him and he hasn't responded. I saw on his socials that he did just have a baby, and having like a newborn baby is a lot of work. And so probably until that gets more balanced, you're not going to get a response from him immediately. So just keep that in mind if you are reaching out to him. Just be a little patient, be very mindful, behave yourself. We don't need you showing up like the FBI knocking on his door like, dude, where you at? Be mindful, be gentle. Okay, let's look at the next question. With the amount of creators you've worked with, have you found a reoccurring issue or mistake that webcomic creators make? Were you able to offer solutions that help the creators you worked with? I'm pretty new to creating webtoons, and I often wonder if there's something important that a creator should know about that we might not be considering or thinking about. Okay, so, hello, Magic Lands. Magic Lands said, that's such a solid piece of advice. Having the space to be creative, trying ideas even if they are rough, is the first step in designing an impactful comic. Big ideas first, refining can come later. Yes, put your whole foot Like, I want your foot missing. That's how heavily you are shooting for with the first draft. Like, scale everything back and then just kind of go from there. Like, I just feel that so many people are kind of like stuck sometimes in like trying to like refine so much in the first draft. It's like, no, put all your ideas out there and then you can be like, okay, this information can be saved for later. I'm gonna make that a note here in the script. Hello, Jess. Hello, hello. All right, so Tyler said clarity is king. Ooh. Okay. I think this is one of my biggest issues with any comic that does lore dumping. Adding extra information doesn't add extra clarity to the reader. And I base this off of my own experience. My eyes sometimes glaze over when I see a long bit of text. And what I mean is if I'm reading, I kind of want a balance between the words that are being said as well as the visuals. And if you're giving me a wall of text, it just kind of exhausts me automatically. Like, and I don't know if that's just me. Hey, like some of you guys could totally be like, no, I love a wall of text. Not me. Okay, try using different color values between foreground and background and employ highlight glow to assist, or remove the background from the panel entirely. Okay, this is something that I find to be really, really impactful that I want to cover in the future. I found that a lot of really impactful series that I really get involved into. So I really enjoy Your Smile is a Trap, and I really want to do a like breakdown of how they use backgrounds, because there's so many panels in that story where there is no background, but I know exactly where they are. I know exactly what's going on, but I feel like the lack of panels really makes some of the moments super impactful. So I kind of want to look at that, because I feel like a lot of people go the opposite route and they try to do overly detailed backgrounds to like really make you feel like you're in the environment. Like it's giving very Wicked. Like we built the set from scratch, so you are immersed into this world. And I feel like for a comic, you don't always need to fully immersed in the actual setting, but you need to feel fully immersed in the emotion. Okay, treat gutter space like a song's tempo. 200 pixels is the smallest amount of gutter space I'd place between 95% of panels. Read Blambot. Backgrounds, schmackgrounds. Sign contracts with your teammates that address ownership and how you would handle serious conflict. Hot take, writers bear less physical burden, and so they should be paid less. Make sure your series thumbnail... Okay, let me pause there. So, okay, he gives this hot take about writers, and I'll agree and disagree at the same time. Like, yes, it does take, I think, a artist longer. They're doing a lot more physical work than just sitting down and typing at your computer. But I also think that the writing of the story holds a lot of weight, and it holds a lot of power of people coming back to the series. So, because like you could have beautiful art, and then if the story is crap, people aren't coming back. And I do see what he's saying, but I kind of feel like depending on the relationship, like if I'm the creator of the story and I'm hiring you, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of areas where the writer could possibly be paid more, especially if they have a name behind themselves. Like, I feel like that's a really difficult conversation to have. It's like, well, I also have a following that's coming to like, we get into the weeds here. Or it's like two unknown people, like trying to make it. Like, that's really hard for both of you. Like, if you're only getting $800 a week, like, is it then even worth the writer to dedicate their time if you're getting 70% and they're only getting 30%? Like that's a really difficult thing to swallow. I could see where he's coming from. I don't know if I agree. I'll have to stew on that. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that artists should get more than the writer? Do you think it should be fair, or do you think writers should get more? Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Okay. Make sure your series thumbnail has great visual contrast. I agree with this. This is something that I saw Graveweaver talk about in one of her streams back in the day, where she was basically saying like, A lot of originals used to just do the character and a color behind them, and that really made the story, like, not the story, the thumbnail stand out on the platform. And so she showed some examples of it where it's just like the character, maybe two characters, and a contrasted background, and it really makes the series pop. I agree with that. I kind of feel like the simpler the background, the better. If it can like give a mood, or if it can like present a tone, then I definitely agree with that. Episode thumbnails usually ought to focus on a character's face. I think sometimes they can focus on the abs. Like, I've seen that, like, people comment on the thumbnail and be like, those abs in that thumbnail made me click. So I guess, like, if you're going for the more, spicy route, it could be, I guess, depending on your audience, you could post something that you think they would enjoy based off the character's physicality. And ideally should reference something exciting about the episode. Yep, agree with that. I feel like if the character's having a strong reaction, that makes for a good thumbnail. I guess it just depends on what you're trying to do. Perhaps by connecting to the cliffhanger of the last episode. So that could be something that's really interesting too. Like, maybe you set up something at the end of the episode that was very shocking, and then in the next episode the thumbnail is very shocking. I'm gonna be honest, I don't ever like for real pay attention to the thumbnails. I'm just kind of excited that a new episode is up, and so I'm just like clicking. Like, I'm not a thumbnail person. Like, that's something that doesn't necessarily bring me into a story, but I could see how it could be appealing to maybe someone who's just now looking at the story. Like, even when I'm coming across a news story, I would probably read the description before I looked at the thumbnails. Every once in a while, there might be a thumbnail that like makes me feel like I need to jump into this. Like, I'm like, ooh, that character looks cool. But I don't think thumbnails do it for me. But clearly it's something that I think readers probably really enjoy. Like, what's your experience with that? Do you think that readers really enjoy thumbnails? Do you think they pay attention to it? Do you think like thumbnails are a part of attracting readers consistently to come back? Like, I'd be very curious to know what your thoughts are. Comment down below, especially if you're watching this in the future. Post on multiple comic platforms until someone pays you to post on only theirs. Yes. I don't care if you're only updating on the other platform once a month. Like, it behooves you to diversify where you're posting. Like, even if there's no fan base on that platform, you can definitely build up to your own fan base on there. And maybe since there isn't as much competition on there, it could really work out for you. Like, we've seen, what's the name of that creator who's on Tapas, who's really big? Like, he's getting an anime now. Is it the beginning of the end or the ending of the beginning? Whatever. He's supposed to be getting an anime soon. And like, I feel like some people just go to Tapas to read that series. Like, you could be that type of person. You never know where your audience is going to come from. So like Global Comics, Namikami, what's the other one? I'm blanking, but any other comic platform that allows you to post on it for free, just do what you can. Like, don't stress about it. If you can only handle uploading once a month, just do that. Like, maybe you bulk upload once a month. You upload 4 episodes. If that's easier for you, just do whatever works. Like, sit down one day a month and upload on all the platforms, whatever. It might take you a whole day, but it's worth it. I really think it is. And then he says, and check out this process guide I helped make with creators of the Warrior of the Wild webtoon. Let's just click on it real quick. Let's see what's going to come up. Okay, this is it. I remember seeing this, and I think that yeah, it's a Google Drive thing. Maybe I'll download it and we'll look at it. I don't know yet. I'll have to read over the information and then we'll go from there. But I think that's probably something that would be really beneficial. I have so many things to cover already. Like, we've got Webtoon, webcomic contest, Webtoon Legends, webcomic legends, whatever it's called, information to go over. But remind me, if you guys want to see that, let me know. Oh, hello, Raven. Thank you for joining the stream. I've seen some people use their thumbnails to tie across a few different episodes, and it makes me so happy. Like Nocturne. It's so good. I'll have to look up Nocturne then and see what they're doing. Maybe I just haven't seen anything that's like really catched my eye. Erie said, that's a hard question. I think writer and artist both can earn equals, but artists maybe should get more than writer since the process of creating the webtoon is very hard. I agree. But see, here's my thing about that. I feel like manual labor always gets less money than the people who don't do manual labor. It's very strange to me. It's like I constructed the house, but the person who drew the house got more money. But clearly the person who constructed it exerted more. Like what are we quantifying as being the better of the two? Because like writing does take brain power. Like see, that's where I'm like we get into the weeds here. But I guess like the artist, like the writer could finish the story maybe in 3 months, and then the artist is kind of stuck working on the series for possibly, 2 to 5 years. So I could see that where like the writer could just move on to their next project. So there's a lot to balance there. Okay. Erie said, I think maybe few people appreciate thumbnails. It doesn't attract readers. It does attract readers though. Yeah, maybe it's just like my mindset on reading. Like looking at thumbnails for a long time, I'm just like, I don't care. I'd rather look at the series. So I don't know. Hello, Luz. Hey, I'm finally here for a live. I found your channel because of this Webtoon contest. How are you? I'm doing super good. I'm really excited that you found the channel because of that. I'm really looking forward to covering more Webtoon Legends, webcomic Legends contest stuff. So stay tuned for that. And if you have any questions or suggestions on things you want to hear about, let me know. Jess said, I feel like when I click on a new romance, I'll look through the thumbnails to see how close it is to the good part before I start reading. I'm impatient and I don't want to wait 3 years for that kiss. I feel like, don't you usually have to wait a long time for the kiss? Like, I feel like there's some series where I'm just like, y'all are married. Have y'all done anything? Like, are y'all still in separate rooms? Like, what type of relationship is this? Okay, let's look at the next comment. So we've got a few more. We got some stuff to cover. So, all right. So as an aspiring Webtoon creator, who is the artist and writer, what advice or tips or resources can you recommend for storytelling? Also script writing. Is there any way to study and practice storytelling/script writing? A random collection of resources. So this is just a list of things that he's given. So Scott McCloud's books, Nate, I'm not sure how to say that, Pico's books about lettering. That's something I need. I have no clue about lettering. Like lettering is like the redheaded stepchild in my mind. Anne Lamont's Bird by Bird, Daredevil Born Again comics by Frank Miller, and David, I'm not sure how to say that at all. Explodey Kids Twitter for tips and tricks. Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. Okay, so I know about Scott McCloud and I also know about Blake Snyder. I will have to look up all the others. That seems super cool. There's also a good comic advice series on Canvas that I lost and am now trying to find from a Professor Christian Hill. He started it in spring of 2023. If I remember right, it'll be a great resource to anyone who can find it, and maybe share the link here. Okay, is this it? Let's look real quick. So I think I remember seeing this before, and I thought like this would be a really good resource to look at. And it looks like they're still posting on it, so definitely it's something that we should check out. Comic tips. Like maybe we'll look at the first few episodes on here one day. Okay, so next question. Hey, okay, let's just jump into their question. They have a few questions. Number 1, is it actual people editors who pick what goes on hidden gems, fresh picks, etc.? Did an editor actually like my comic and put it in staff picks? So this is some tea. Okay, what's the tea? Is there any method to getting selected for the front of Canvas page? For web novels, how good would you say the writing needs to be? Number 3, have you seen a problem with creators in Canvas review bombing other creators? I've heard about this, but I have no idea if it's true. Okay, so all the recommendations are made by people. So everything that goes up. So he said, so this person asked about hidden gems and fresh picks specifically. And staff picks. So he said it's people who are putting it up. So if you're getting put up by somebody, that means somebody's really into your series. Somebody is enjoying your content, enjoying what you're releasing. But I don't know the specific process. Similar answer for how web novels would get selected, but as a general rule, there's a lot of emphasis on listening to the readers and what they like. Super, super important. Remember, like this is a product. Like I know that it's your child, it's your baby, and you love it, but if readers don't love it, then the company don't want it. Like, that's the reality. I haven't personally seen much in the way of Canvas review bombing, but I was less involved in that kind of day-to-day community management. I help some creators deal with review bombing predictably. It's joyful, gay storylines like in Reveal Out that get a lot of review bombs. Okay, so, this to me just indicates that Webtoons knows that people are going to review bomb, but it's also kind of like, is it really doing anything? They're lowering your rating, like the rating, like this is giving to me that even Webtoons doesn't care about the rating, so it's just like, okay. Like, that's the vibe I got. It was like, I'm not involved in this and I know about it, but it's also kind of one of those things where we're just like, yeah, it happened. Next question. I'm sure there are artists out there that are smart enough to not need an editor, but could use one just to save up on time. So I'm wondering which artists would benefit from having an editor and which ones don't need one. Okay. Before we even read his comment, I'm not even looking at the screen. I'm looking at chat. And I just want to say this. I 1000% believe that everyone needs an editor. It does not matter how smart you are, how intellectual you are, how good at storytelling you are. There are a number of factors to consider when producing any sort of entertainment. And it doesn't matter if you're a successful creator, you're a successful artist or whatever. Like, having an additional perspective is always going to be useful. We are not perfect people that can understand other people 1000%. Therefore, it's nice to have another perspective, especially one that's opposing to ours, to kind of help us balance out the viewpoint. I don't know what he's going to say. Like, maybe he'll say something different, but I just feel like it doesn't make sense for you not to use another person as a resource to help you better your story, because there are going to be things that you miss because there's no such thing as a perfect story. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care. Okay. So he says, I can't think of anyone who wouldn't benefit from a second brain. Preach. Yes, King. Okay. And editors train up a bunch of different skills in order to give very specific targeted benefits. Okay. Yes. This is the other thing. Having the brain of an editor is very different from the brain set of a creator. You're involved in making the story. You're involved in thinking about like plot elements, character arcs, themes, tone, all of that stuff. The editor is involved in making sure that your story is being told well to the audience, to help you make money, to help your story possibly get accolades, possibly get awards, possibly be something that has global appeal. And sometimes for creators, it's just like, the story is good. Yeah, the story may be good, but that still doesn't mean readers want it. It could be 10 years ahead of its time. Some books are like that. Anyway, there are some creator-editor matches that are better than others, though, especially if the editor's skill set doesn't offer the support the creator needs. That's super important. Super important. You have to understand, like for me, I need someone to push back on me. Like, I don't need a soft editor because I would bully them. And I don't mean like I would literally bully them. Like, they would say something and I'd be like, no. And they would be like, oh, okay. Like, you can't be soft spoken with me. You gotta beat your chest and try and convince me. Like, you gotta tell me like why I'm wrong. And then you've got to spend like 20 minutes explaining it to me. And then I've got to stew on it. And then I'll come back to you and be like, nah. And then you'll still have to be like, listen, this is the last time we go over this. It's that vibe with me. And so that's why I'm like someone who's like very nonchalant, who's very easygoing, who's very chill would not make a good editor with me because I need you to beat me up. Okay, where did we leave off? So there was an instance last year where I couldn't figure out how to express a specific piece of feedback in words. And so I asked an editor with that expertise for help. If something like that became a reoccurring problem, it might mean that they aren't the best match and the artist should find someone new to work with. But generally speaking, an editor's and editors a pretty good all-purpose resource. They are 100% a beautiful resource to have. Like, if you can afford an editor, and if you get one that really cares, that knows what they're talking about, that knows like target audience, like that knows, you know, marketing strategies, that knows like your genre specifically, like all of those would benefit you, because that's what they're researching. Creators are not researching stuff like that. Like, maybe you are a little bit, but also you don't have the numbers. Like, Webtoons isn't going to give you those type of numbers. They're not going to give you those types of specifics. So it would behoove you, like, behoove is like my word for the last 3 videos, to really getting good with that editor and just like squeeze out, like you would like if you're making orange juice, all of that information from them and be like, thank you, sir. I sure do appreciate that useful information. Okay, Jess said, I don't have an actual editor, but I found it incredibly helpful to call my sister and go over my story with her verbally. Yes, Jess. Your sister's awesome. Shout out to Jess's sister. Jess also said, she helped me so much finalize the end of my last comic. Ooh, you know, Jess, I did find the end of your story to be really satisfying. I do think like the story could continue with what you left, but I felt like I didn't need it to. It felt very good. Like, I really enjoyed it. She always has a different perspective and ideas. Yes, different perspective. And I think like since the fact that that's your sister, Jess, it makes so much sense that, you know, she could probably tell you things that you wouldn't take a certain way. And so sometimes I feel like if you have somebody in your life that you value their opinion, that you trust, and that you know that could like offer something that is different from you, it's just great to have them, you know, work with as an editor or as someone you can just bounce ideas off of. Lou said, or Lewis, I'm sorry, I'm saying your name wrong. I'm going to run a test launch with my friends and family so I can get some fresh perspectives. Yeah, please do. Also, I would be very interested, like when you enter the contest, to know what you're entering so that we can check it out. Okay, let's move on to the next comment. Let's see. Oh, wait, was that the last one? I think that was it. We covered all of it, guys. Yes. Okay, so the last comments are from people like he didn't respond to, so maybe he'll respond to those in the future. I'm not sure. But I just want to say thank you to Tyler for mentioning all of this stuff. If you guys want to, you know, check out his website, it's linked down below. Here is the pricing for his short-term packages. So I feel like it's fairly decent, and it has like a lot of benefits to take advantage of. So definitely, you know, do what you can. Do what you want with that. I'm still contemplating, like, should I do a giveaway for that? Like maybe when he's back up and running, or maybe when he has more free time, and pay for one of you guys to get your comic edited by him, you know, and then you can give me the details so I can make a video. Okay. All right, so, question to the community. I forgot to change the question. So, have you ever worked with an editor? I think specifically, I would like to know, like, what was the editor's added perspective? Like, how did they benefit you? What did it teach you? How did you grow? Like, did it help you become a better writer, a better artist? Like what? Explain to people in the comments why working with an editor was good. And if you had a bad experience, explain why your experience was bad. And then I just want to hear from everybody's perspective. Thank you to all of my patrons. We're going to be doing more Patreon content. Like I've told you guys, I'm going to be specifically drawing on there and yapping. So come and hang out. All right. I will catch you guys in the next video.